Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm doing a new episode of the Whole Athlete Podcast with the Mark Allen from the Triathlon Hall of Fame and Mark Allen Coaching Program, and also the experienced triathlon coach and athlete himself. Thanks for coming on, Mark.
Hey, it's great to see you again, Debbie. Saw you in Kona, and it was an amazing day out there, huh?
Yeah, so we just wanted to talk a little bit about your review of the race, as you're there every year and always getting the inside scoop on your side of the race, and then kind of going a little bit about coaching and, dive into that side of the world of triathlon. So talk about I only saw you a little bit, but I saw you at the finish line all day. Talk about what you saw from the beginning to the end briefly, and then what you thought who would win, and any comments about that. So let's dive in.
Well, I guess the biggest surprise for me was Jan Frodeno having a real problem on the run. His back locked up.
Oh.
He said it felt like he had pinched a nerve in his back. And I saw a little video on YouTube somebody had put up, or on Facebook. He was sitting on a cooler at one of the aid stations, just trying to stretch his back and get it to loosen up. And he did. He ended up finishing. And afterwards he said, it's Kona, you can't stop. You have to keep going. And so, I think that shows a lot about what kind of an athlete he is.
And most people would bail out, right? Most people just quit.
They would quit because he finished, I don't know what it was, 9:14 or something. So he was over an hour slower than he probably could have done. But yeah, and it would have been very easy for him to just bail, but he just wanted to honor the race, honor, the work that he'd put in. And he goes, hey, it just motivates me to be that much better next year when I come back. So, but it was, it was an interesting day. There was, for the women, I guess, it was actually part of Daniela's strategy to just kind of let Lucy Charles take the lead out of the water and hold it for quite a while, and then finally, move up in the second half of the bike, the last quarter of the bike, and she executed perfectly. I don't think it was her best day that she could possibly have, but certainly I think it was the best day she could have on that day. And that's kind of what Ironman is all about, is really not even looking at it and saying, well, how, was that the best I could have done, if I had rested more or whatever. It's like, you just have to get the best out of the day that you can with what's going on. And, some days they're going to be those magic, incredible days where, you just make it, you cut through the wind, your swim goes perfectly. And on the run, you have very few down moments. Other days, it can feel like you're pulling teeth the whole way just to get your legs to turn over. Yeah. But ultimately you're just trying to get the best you can out of whatever situation you're in. And I think that's the real lesson in Kona, is figuring out how to do that and then actually making that your goal to execute. And ultimately, getting across that finish line, that is the big goal. For the men, it was pretty amazing. That was a very strong bike ride, obviously. Three guys went under the fastest bike split that Norman Stadler had held for a number of years. His best was 4:18. They went 4:12, and a couple guys 4:14. So very fast day for the pro men anyway on the bike.
Because they don't get the wind as much. The change of the wind happens later in the mid-afternoon, early morning.
Yeah, exactly.
They're out there.
Yeah, they're starting 6:30. So. That's very different than the later waves that are starting at 7. What was it? Women's start time?
7:05 or something.
Yeah,
right after,
it was
10 after.
So it was, it's a half hour difference. Getting out to Javi and back a half hour earlier can be the world of difference. And just an example of that. I coach a guy, Rick Simpson, who won the 65-69 age group. Very, very strong cyclist. But he said on the bike, the winds were so strong for him that he had to drop his bike into a big gear, with a lower cadence so that he didn't get blown all over the road. If he was spinning at his normal cadence, he said he was just going all over. So he had to drop it down, do a big gear, low cadence, which then left his legs pretty flat for the run. It was good enough for the win, but
yeah. The
you know,
run gets to be more challenging, do 26.2 miles after that.
Yeah, it definitely, excuse me. It definitely shows that there were, you have to edit this part out. It definitely showed that there were kind of two races. You know, there was one for the people who went through the turn and back quickly, because the pro guys said, you know, it was actually a pretty good a day. There was some wind, but it wasn't horrendous. There wasn't as much as normal out of Javi. And then you have a guy like Rick Simpson saying it was really, really strong winds. Missy Lestrange said that her characterization was that it was a moderately easy day. And I thought about that, and I realized even if there is no easy in Kona, it might be favorable for the race to be fast, but there is nothing easy about the Ironman in Hawaii.
No.
Even Patrick Lang's world record that he set this year, coming from about over 10 minutes behind off of the bike to achieve his first victory. You know, that's tough. It's a really, really tough day, but it's also, as you know, that toughness and difficulty that really makes it such an amazing experience, because you do have moments where you think, I can't do it. I can't keep going. I want to quit. I want to slow down. I want to back off. What am I doing out here? And then you somehow get yourself to regroup, and you refocus, you redirect, and then the next thing you know, you're back in your rhythm again, and you're going. And every one of those sort of personal victories that happens out there that nobody else is going to see or know about, you know, those just add to your character, and they add to your strength. And when the day's done and you look back, you just go, wow, you know, that was truly amazing. And every one of the people who's in that race has a story to tell. And the interesting thing is that it's the kind of race that you sort of think about a little bit here, a little bit there over time. And so maybe they tell the story of the 2017 Ironman this week, but then 6 months from now, when they talk about it, it'll be from a different perspective, and there'll be new things insights that they got about what happened out there and how they crossed that finish line and how they made it through the tough moments. I mean, you know, the last year I raced was in 1995, and I'm still learning stuff, finally realizing things that I did out there that enabled me to have some great races in Kona. So it's a real learning experience, and ultimately, you know, in my opinion, triathlon should really be about what you learn, not what you earn. You know, you can earn a T-shirt, you can earn a trophy, you can earn a medal, but it's really what you learn from it that makes it a great experience. And I think that because it is challenging, there is going to be something you learn if you reflect on it. You know, at the end of the season, you sit back, think about some of your races, think about your training, think about your training partners, your family that supported you. And there's going to be a lot of lessons in there. And that's what's priceless. That is what will be with you the rest of your life. The T-shirts, you know, the numbers like you have behind you, you might look at them, but each one of those numbers has a great story, and I'm sure you can tell some yourself.
Well, I think I was just thinking and was writing down notes when you were speaking, just thought of, you know, a lot of people did a race report and they post it on Facebook nowadays, and, you know, the big long drama of the race, and they almost need to do it, you know, week after the race, and like people waited, and then do it 2 months from now or January 1st and go, okay, what did I learn from that race, and what helped me grow and want to do it differently next time, or what spiritually changed me or moved me, whatever connections you had or discoveries, like you said, during the race. I think, like we've talked before about the magic and the island and in Kona and Madame Pele, you know, if you connect with the spiritual side of it. But that's what I always talked about in the past, of that connection to the island when you're racing. But it'd be interesting if people go through all that and realize afterwards, a month or two later, what they really got out of that day, that journey that they took when they started that race.
Yeah, and when you're in the race, you know, it's very intense. You may not fully understand the connection you have with the island, or how much you fought having that connection or fought what the island was actually trying to teach you and show you through the difficulty and the challenge. I commented that in 1989, when I raced Dave Scott, it was the first year that I'd really gone into the race just hoping to have my best race. Now, I'd kind of put aside this fantasy of winning, because there's only going to be one person that wins. So does that mean everybody else is a failure? No. And so I really, really went into it thinking, I just want to have my best race, meaning I'm not going to play it safe, but I just want to try to be able to race all the way through. And it ended up that late in the marathon, I did realize that I had what it took to win, but my legs were killing me. I'd had blisters on the bottom of my feet that had already popped. It was really painful to keep going. And in retrospect, I can see now that the only way to bring out my best was for the island kind of arrange it so that I was in this impossible situation where I knew I could win, but I didn't know if I could take another step. Mm-hmm. And so I had to rise up and find a reason each step that I had to take, why I was going to keep going, to just take that next step, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that, even though it was painful. It was not easy, but because it was so hard to keep going, it really did bring out my best. And as you know, that was an amazing race that we had together, Dave and I. So yeah, you just don't know what you're getting out there, and connecting with the island is so huge. It's important. Every year I go there, I take a little time and just go off and sit and try to listen and see what the island's saying, because it's a beautiful place. The people there are beautiful, and they really give their aloha to make that race happen.
I was staying at my friend's house he's from there originally, but it was up 2,000 feet. So I had a different perspective staying overnight up 8 miles away that took me 20 minutes to get up to. But it's a whole different community up there where the locals are, and the Kona farms, the coffee farms and all that. So it is just a beautiful place. I was fine, but it made me, I'm always drawn to go there again and again. And I think just watching the race and not being there last few years, you just really feel this sense of community in the triathlon world. And, I was going there to communicate the podcast and the whole athlete podcast, kind of what it's about, and get more people around the world, connect with them, because it's just like the biggest trade show in our industry, and all these people who are watching. I heard someone say on the airplane, they had people buy them from Norway, and they had one person racing, but they had 20 people came all the way from Norway to cheer on their one participant from their town. And I just think it's so great to be a part of that event. If you're not racing, it's just something to watch and experience. It just is very emotional watching the finish line for the pro race, and then just watching the age groupers. It's just such a experience everyone should, if you're into triathlons, to just enjoy that at least once in your lifetime.
Yeah, you don't even have to be into triathlon to really enjoy it and to feel something from it. And I think a lot of it is you have 2,500 athletes they've been dreaming about this for a long time, and they've qualified. They're there. It's the biggest race in the sport of triathlon, and they're giving their best. They have put every ounce of energy they can into preparing, and so when everybody's on the start line and everybody's giving their best, it really sets up a unique energy that is just special. And people put out way more than they do really in any other race that they do throughout the year. And it's also, as you mentioned, that island is very spiritual. And whether you consider yourself spiritual or not, you will feel something, and you will be affected by that energy there. And so it makes it a different event. If the Ironman was in any other place, it wouldn't have that same feel. And it's that feel that touches the athletes, brings out the best that they have, brings out some things that they didn't even know that they had, strengths that they had. And it also affects the people who were there watching. It's like, wow, you can just feel it. It's like the closest you can get to seeing something that's unseen, or touching something that you can't get your grasp, put your hands around, but that something's really special about that race on the Big Island.
The only thing I found that, and I told you after the race, that watching the race, you don't really know what's going on as much as you do if you're at home on your computer. Or what I learned is that you need that battery pack for your cell phone. So when you're running around all day, you can go online and watch what's going on in the race, or you stand at the finish line, watch the live feed. But it is a challenge because you want to watch the pros finish because they go so fast. By the time you watch your friends go off on the bike, the pros are nearing the end of their bike ride. And so you wait around for them and then wait for them on the run. And so you kind of miss all the details of who's in front of who and who's running down who on the beginning of the run on Leahy Drive. So there's so much goes on that, how do you find, you're usually working with NBC or what do you do to keep track of what's going on in the race?
Yeah, I mean, I am with NBC all day. I help with taking down notes on what's going on, how guys and the men and the women are looking, at the front of the race. And then myself and the producer does the same thing. Then we feed all of those notes, put them together, and give them to Al Trautwig, who narrates the edited show, and just gives him context, because he's looking at tape of people swimming, biking, and running, but it's like, where is this and what was going on and who was behind, but it's, even though we're sort of leapfrogging between the men and the women at the lead, there's a lot of the race that I don't see either. It's a lot of years, like this year we didn't go out to Hawi. It's just too difficult to get up there and back, and with the wind, with wind or traffic, it's a narrower road. So I'm kind of in the same boat with you. And actually, I went back and looked through a lot of the Ironman live notes after the race, just to see what some places that I missed, what was going on. And then, it was a great year as far as people watching, though. If you weren't there, there was Ironman Live, there was Red Bull TV streaming live, there was some stuff on NBC. It was really, they really stepped it up as far as the ability for people to track the race and watch it live. And then it'll be interesting for those who did watch it live to then rewatch the edited show on NBC. I think it's going to be December 9th. Because that just gives a whole different flavor when you have somebody narrating the stories of the day. They
make it more dramatic and choose they always do get such a good job filming that makes everyone cry, and people that don't know about Ironman, everyone tunes into that and just really makes everyone emotional watching that show.
Well, the thing is, it's, when you're there, it's emotional. And when they edit it down, it really does capture that feeling of what it was like to be there watching it and feeling it, the finish, and seeing the people come across with these amazing smiles, or, barely making it across and collapsing. And yeah.
Do you go back at 11 p.m. and watch till the closing at midnight?
Oh, I do. Yeah, it's so great. I went back this year about 10:15, and I was there, and Patrick Lang was there, and Daniela Reef was there, and Heather Jackson came down, and it was really interesting. The Make-A-Wish Foundation, where they kids who have something that is basically a terminal illness. What do you want to do? What's the one thing you would like to do? And there was a kid there this year, Nicholas, I forget how you say his last name. He's dying of some kind of a brain thing, ALD or something like that. Anyway, his wish was to go see the Ironman. That's what he wanted to do. And so he was around all the events this year, and the nicest kid. He's 12 or something like that. And he was in the VIP area right above the finish. And about 11:30 or so, somebody grabbed Patrick Lang and took him over to Nicholas and introduced him and, explained what it was and stuff. And Patrick immediately came back across the finish area, grabbed one of the kukui nut leis that they put on the people who were coming across the finish line, and he put one on over Nicholas's head, kind of like saying, you are a champion, you are a champion for what you're doing and what you're fighting. And it was such a touching moment. It really came from Patrick's heart. He didn't have to do that. Nobody told him to do that. He thought of that. And it really, I think that just shows what kind of a champion what kind of a
Patrick.
person Patrick is, and what
Yeah.
kind of how he's going to be able to represent the sport really well.
He's German, right? Is he?
Yeah, he's German. Yeah.
And then the second place was, who was the second place men's finisher again? That was
Lionel
Canadian?
Sanders. Lionel. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was, he did not make it look easy. You know, he was obviously giving 150% of what he had to give. He really held on for a long, long time. You know, he really pushed the bike, and he held Patrick off for ages on the marathon, but finally just slowed just enough, and Patrick was able to pass him around mile 23, something like that.
Yeah.
But truly, really gutsy performance. So, and really good. And then third place was David McNamee, who a couple of years ago, he actually had the fastest marathon split. He was the only guy, maybe it was 2015, he was the only guy to go under 250 on the marathon. And so he's maybe a name that a lot of people don't know, but now third place.
Now they do.
Yeah, they're gonna know him now. So yeah, amazing day all around.
So with coaching, are you coaching any pro athletes anymore, or working with their part of the program like Rennie and her group? Are you working with her husband? And
yeah, I work with Tim O'Donnell. He had great training going into it. He didn't have a good day out there. Really struggled on the run. That's how it goes sometimes. But yeah, he's a great athlete, a great person. They had their first child a couple months ago, a little over a month ago actually, and so that was a whole new experience for both of them to be in Kona with this little baby that was 4 or 5 weeks old. But most of the people I coach are all age group athletes, and they're just folks who have a dream that they want some guidance. And I think triathlon is a sport that it really is good to get guidance, to get some help from people who have experience, and who, even if you are an experienced athlete, I think it's good to have a coach, just because sometimes you need that voice of reason to say, look, I know you want to go hard today. I know you want to do that long ride, but if we look at your markers, you're really tired. It can be that voice of truth that tempers the enthusiasm of the type AAA triathletes who want to do every single workout that's on their training plan. And certainly if you're starting out, or you're looking for ways to improve, a coach is one of the best ways to do it, because a good coach anyway will know what works and what doesn't, what's the fashion of today, and what has been proven over time to help.
I think people say Rick Simpson, he's been on the team when we had the Mark Allen elite team, and then he's still coaching with you. That it's a good example of, we could write the schedule ourselves. We know what to do, but we still need someone to, like you said, look over it and tell us, when it's not a good idea, when we switch things that we would push through, like you say, and lead you down the wrong pathway of not performing as well by making some decisions. So I think instead of just pulling off a free training schedule, or taking someone that a friend might have done a triathlon, Ironman or half Ironman, I personally think it's really important to have a coach. And I even say, trainers need trainers, and coaches need coaches, that we all need someone else to look over us. I know what I'm doing, but I still would hire you for training me for a race. I still have a nutritional therapist working with me because I can't work on myself. And so we all need people, our team, our entourage, to help us perform the best in life and our sports. So I think it's a good investment if you're going to put your body through that long a distance. You really have to be smart in how you're training and your volume, and not overdoing it, because so many people, we talk about tons of adrenal issues, and overtraining is just breaking yourself down. That working on training hard but recover harder, and doing more of that recovery side of it is key for training.
Yeah, I think you really hit it on the head when you said it. It's about training smart. And so sometimes that means, you have to do those workouts that are going to make you dig. And then there's other times when maybe you would want to do one more of those or another one, and your coach goes, no, you're ready. You've done enough, and it's time to rest and recover. And to have, a good relationship and confidence that that advice you're getting is good. And also for a coach to be able to listen to the feedback of their athlete and modify if needed. And so it's, it's a dynamic relationship. But, some sports have coaches. It's just the way it is. Like if you're swimming, hardly anybody swims on their own if they're trying to actually swim, right? You have a swim coach and you go to the pool and the swim coach gives you the workouts. I think triathlon is just now starting to really develop that culture of actually using a coach. And why wouldn't you? If it, like you said, a training plan off the internet is generic. And if you know nothing, that might be okay. But it's really good to take the specifics of where each person is and develop their training plan around that, around the races they're going to be doing, around the age that they are, the experience that they've had in the sport, because all of that factors in it, and it makes things a little bit different for each person. If you want to really fine tune it, there are some basics that you can't get around. That basically everybody's going to have to build a base. They're going to have to do some speed work. They're going to have to taper. You do functional strength, the regular strength training, to build the integrity of your joints and tendons and ligaments and your muscular strength. But then fine-tuning that is the knowledge that a coach can bring, so that what you're doing is not generic, so that you can be amazing yourself.
Well, I think, you have to look at who you're hiring too. Like obviously you have lots of experience, but there's that Ironman University or some certifications, and that's like, as in the fitness world, people go get ACE personal training, or even the CrossFit teachers, they do one day and they're certified. So I think you have to really look at the resume of the coach and look at their experience and how they know to coach people. So, there's people that might be brand new that are just doing it because it's a new thing now on a side job. But I think, who you're, like you said, you have to trust your response and know that you're going to look out for the right elements and factors that are red flags and what you need to adjust in the schedule.
Yeah, I've been in the sport 35 years now, and a lot of that obviously was racing, 15 seasons, and then another 20 years of helping coach people. And so I really do feel like I've seen what works, what doesn't work. Training is not entertainment. Training is developing the physiology that you need to go fast and doing it in a way that's sustainable. That's my philosophy anyway. Doing it in a way that is sustainable, so that, you don't burn yourself out at the end of your first year or your second year. It's something that if you want to, you could sustain it for year after year after year. And that is not the goal of a lot of coaches. They try to, get people going and get big and fast results quickly. And it's almost like, it's just like a diet that is extreme. You might be able to lose 15 pounds in a month, but then, it's not going to be sustainable. And all of a sudden you're back to where you started. And it's the same with coaching. Slow and steady progress is ultimately what gives people the results that they're after, but also makes it a truly enjoyable experience. And
Are you still coaching people with heart rate, or is it heart rate and power, or what kind of programs do you think work best?
The core is heart rate, but then I like people to gauge their progress using power or using pace. So power on the bike, pace running. So, if this month you're on your bike and you're working at, let's say, 150 beats a minute, and you're putting out 220 watts, that's a marker. And then next month, that same heart rate, you're going 250 watts. That's pure fitness gain. If you're running at 150 beats a minute and you're at a 8.5 minute mile, next month it's a 7:45. That's pure fitness gains. If you just use power or just use pace because you're going faster, you don't know if that's because you're going harder or because you're more fit. And when you gauge that against heart rate, it gives you the 2 points that you need to know what's really going on.
I think a lot of people do that. I always agree with that way. I always have a trouble over the years, when power started, people just do power and then they go whatever the heart rate is. So I was finding like, well, you're above your threshold the whole time. Is that really how you want to train for endurance race? But I think a lot of coaches out there go by power and then whatever your heart rate is at that number. But when they do the power test, they kind of say, hey, your power is at 200 the whole bike ride. Well, what if your heart rate is skyrocketed. So
Yeah.
do you adjust that or not?
Yeah. And I mean, let's face it, heart rate doesn't have the same ring and zing as power. I'm training with power. I want to train with power. I want to train with heart rate.
Yeah.
I mean, you've known about a heart rate since you were 3 years old, right? And so it doesn't have that. Yeah, it doesn't have that wow factor, but it's ultimately what I use to really gauge people's intensity in their training.
Okay, and then we're rolling into off season. Any tips for off season training? People have been racing tons of triathlons this year. What are your 3 tips for off season training?
The main thing is to dial it back and decondition. That's the one goal in the off season, is to actually let yourself get a little out of shape. That doesn't mean going into full sloth mode. You can still be active. You can still swim and bike and run if you want. You can do other alternate activities. Maybe you're in a cold climate, cross country ski. You do mountain biking. Me in the winter, I surfed a lot. The one thing that's good to keep up at least consistently, even if they're short, is consistency with your running. Mm-hmm. And the reason is that there's impact with running, and over time that strengthens your joints, tendons, and ligaments. If you stop running completely without that impact, they tend to soften up a little bit. And then when you get back in shape, your cardio conditioning will come back much quicker than the integrity of tendons, joints, and ligaments. So it's always good in the off season to at least run a couple days a week, 20, 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to be long. But the main thing, the guiding principle in the off season is to rest and recover. Recovery can be active, meaning you're training light, but you're not focused on getting more fit, and you're not trying to maintain that peak of fitness that you had at the very end of your season. You have to decondition to then next year go up to the next level. And a lot of people, they get up to that peak, and then they take maybe 1 or 2 weeks easy, and then they want to just keep ramping up, starting in November and December, and maybe they can do that, but then by March, April, May, they're already tired. And so you really have to let your fitness dip down a little bit. And then when you come back, at first, you will not be as fast as you were at the end of the year, but that's okay, because when you start training, your body will respond much with bigger response just from easy training even.
That is an excellent tip. One thing I was thinking, you said 20, 30 minutes. I think a lot of us endurance athletes, I've had to switch that last few years, not being able to go long, but 30 minutes, you don't need to go over 45 minutes to get a good workout. And just training people that are not racing for anything, we just have them do 30-minute workouts, even 20 minutes. I think you have to get out of that mindset that we have to do everything. It's not worth if I don't go out on my bike for 2 hours or more. It's not worth it if I'm not going to run an hour or more. That, you actually probably get more gains in the off season, I would think, doing 30, 45 minutes max on a run, or just a short little swim workout or run or bike workout. But I think so many people are just trained. We're supposed to do 3 to 7 hours of something that, like, what? That's nothing.
The gauge gets skewed, especially if your focus was Ironman distance racing in the previous season. And if usually most people who do Ironman, they're around a community of other athletes who are doing similar stuff. So you think the whole world is doing 5-hour bike rides every week, and the whole world is doing 2 or 2.5 hour runs every week. Yeah. And that's not something I think is necessarily sustainable 365 days a year. You have to come down off that peak.
That 2-3 a day workout sessions, and still work full time and have family and friends. But I think I was fine, just taking that time to go do stuff with friends and your non-triathlon friends, and get out and actually be social and not talk about triathlons, was what I used to always say. It's like, can we just not talk about your workout and how your bike ride was, and talk other subjects, and meet with your friends that you never see because they don't go on your long bikes and runs. So I think that's a good time to catch up with the rest of your social world and family. And they don't want to hear about your races either.
Yeah, you have to keep it all in balance, in perspective. That's something that I really tried to embody when I was competing. When I was getting ready for Ironman, obviously that was a very focused period, a few months leading up to it, where that was the one thing on my plate every day. But then when it was done, then I really tried to just put a ton of time into my family and my friends. And, I didn't need to talk about triathlon. We talked about everything else. And, near the end, I had a son. And so there was a lot of focus around helping, raising him and guiding him. And yeah, it's a balancing act, but if you get it right, then it's really something that enriches everybody, because as an athlete, you get charged up from, kind of setting these goals or these ideals of what you want to do, and then, fulfilling them, having that great experience of getting more fit than you were before, of challenging yourself, and whether your race turns out the way you want or not, at least you went for something, and then you use that richness and bring that into the other areas of your life. And, it can be a real kind of win-win for everybody.
You're so wise, the wise Mark Allen. So two things you just said, your son is qualified for Ironman Hawaii next year. So for sure you'll be there next year watching him. And he qualified in South Korea or?
Yeah, he last summer he hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. He went he went south, so north-south. He started in Canada and went to Mexico. Took him about 4 months, just under 4 months. And he did it all by himself, except for about 250 miles of it.
So you make a movie of it?
No, but it was, obviously it was an amazing experience.
Wow.
He was hiking. He was averaging about 30 miles a day, I guess.
For 4 months?
Yeah, the first 2 weeks he said were really hard. His body was not used to it. And then all of a sudden it just clicked in, and you just get on this roll and this rhythm. And so anyway, he did that last summer. Hadn't given triathlon a thought in the world. And then last winter he was like, maybe I'll try doing a triathlon. And so he signed up for Ironman 70.3 Santa Rosa, and then Ironman Korea in this past September, because he had seen, he'd seen what I'd done in the sport and his mom, and he just wanted to see what that distance.
Test his genetics out.
Well, he just wanted to see what that distance felt like, because he's kind of an endurance guy. And he ended up winning his age group, qualified for Kona 2018. So kind of a wild journey. Yeah, just happened. Yeah.
That's so fun. So Mark Allen coaching.com is a website, and you have the coaching options there. People are interested in talking to you. How do they learn more?
Yeah, you can go to markallencoaching.com. There's information on my coaching there, what I offer. You can always email me, mark@markallencoaching.com. Great training. We have off-season training plans. We have in-season racing programs, and they're all customized for you as you create a program. There's parameters that you put in that give us information about you, your past history, where you're at right now, where you're going. And so everything is customized. You're not shoved into a template that's the closest thing to you. Each training plan is built around all of your specifics. And then, so I have that, markallencoaching.com. And then also, as you know, I teach co-teach a workshop with Brant Secunda called Fit Soul, Fit Body. And that's based on a book that we wrote together, Fit Soul, Fit Body, 9 Keys to a Healthier, Happier You. And each one of the keys in that book is, it's kind of actually the roadmap that got me to Kona in one piece and enabled me to win that race 6 times. There's some of the keys are quieting your mind, connecting with the spiritual world of nature, slowing down to get faster, as far as the training, know and set your quest, like what is important to me? Why am I going forward with all of this? And then another key, living what you ask for. And that's actually one of the tough ones for people is like, okay, I set this goal, but am I willing to do the work that goal requires? But anyway, we teach those a number of places. We have one in April here in Santa Cruz at this beautiful new retreat center called 1440. And then we teach a second one in June at the Kripalu Institute of Yoga and Health out in Massachusetts. You can see information on that on Brant's website, shamanism.com. And that's a great way for people to really gain some tools to help them integrate not only what they're doing physically, but also to build their inner strength, their inner character, and to just develop, a clear awareness of where they're going and what it's going to take, and just embodying qualities that enable you to feel healthier and happier. And those are two great goals, I think.
Yeah, that is key, is the happiness part of it and working from the inside out. And we did a podcast on the Fit Body, Fit Soul about 2 years ago. So I'll find the link for that podcast because you gave great information on that. And it's always on my list. I get your emails on that upcoming events for that seminar. And someday I'm going to get to the Santa Cruz one. It's something I really want to do, especially that new location sounds great. And then it's usually a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event.
Yeah, it's a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and so it's pretty easy for people to sneak away Friday and get down here or get out to Massachusetts, and it's enough time that you can also experience a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. It's not just us talking, but you actually get to experience a lot of it.
Yeah, April. I'll have to look at that. April 2018. It could be the one. I keep looking at that going,
Yeah, love to see you down here.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Mark, and your insight on the race and stuff that I never even saw because I was watching the finish line, and there's so much going on Ironman, but I definitely think it's a journey everyone needs to come to Kona at least once and just watch that race. I know a lot of my clients, after I stuck away for 4 days, I didn't tell anybody I was going to Kona. I just kind of said I was out of town. And all these people want to come with me next year and promote the podcast. So I said, next year we're handing out swim caps with the Whole Athlete podcast logo on it. And then we'll get out there. I'll have my crew of clients that want to join. So we'll be there next year for sure. And we'll talk to you soon and hopefully find some races in 2018 that we need some coaching for.
All right. Sounds great, Debbie. Great to see you. Be on your podcast. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.